Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Robert R. Blondin. We'll be discussing his book, Searching for Papa's Star, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or if you guys want to get the full experience of everything that Robert has to offer, listen, do yourself a favor. Don't stop there at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, okay? Now listen, you have to purchase the book through those sites, but go directly to his personal site, okay? bobmeistersplace.com. That's BOBMEISTERSPLACE.com. There, not only will you be able to find this title, you'll be able to find the 3 other titles in which Robert has written, as well as everything else that he has to offer. So do yourself a favor. Go straight there. There's hyperlinks set up so it'll bring you directly to your Amazon page where you can purchase the book. So stop there first before going anywhere else, okay? One more time, that's bobmeistersplace.com. And Robert was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business. Author, Reputation Press Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, well, move it through Author Reputation Press. You can find them at authorreputationpress.com. And guys, I am so excited to have Robert here on the line with us, okay? Because the book we're going to be discussing, Searching for Papa's Star, okay? Right off the bat, it's such a fun title, right? And it perks your interest. You're instantly taken in. But what is so great about it is it's a children's book / family oriented, okay? And it's really constructed and based with the emphasis on learning about a topic that usually is pretty difficult to discuss, okay? It's really going to be questioning and exploring mortality. And as we all know, that's an inevitable fact of life. So it's really a concept that we can't shy away from. And I love the fact that we have Robert here on the line to discuss exactly how he was able to construct and put together this fantastic book. And without further ado, we have him here on the line. So let's go ahead. Let's bring him on, okay? Robert, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
I'm good. You're welcome, because I'm glad to be talking at you, and hopefully we can discuss the book and maybe the other books as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, let's not hold off any longer, okay? Let's jump in. Now, before we go into the title, Searching for Papa's Star, let's hold off slightly. Listen, Robert, tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm now 70 years old, and I was born in a little town in northern Ontario here in Canada called Callander. That's Callander, Callander, Ontario. I moved to Toronto, Ontario in 1968, and I worked in law enforcement as a civilian, and I've now been retired from that for 20 years. So I do a lot of things. I don't consider myself an author, a poet. What I do consider myself as is creatively inclined. And basically, you know, I like karaoke, artwork, woodworking, video games, sports, all around everything. And of course, I created my own website so I could put all my stuff on there. And as you said, it was called bobmeistersplace.com. And I am a widower. My wife passed away in 2005.
Sorry.
I have 2 children, my daughter Melinda and my son Kyle. And of course, I now have 4 grandkids. Nathaniel, Austin, Sydney, and Jake. And the book Searching for Papa's Star was written before Jake was born. So poor Jake is not in my book. Sorry, Jake.
So now his siblings have something to hold over his head. You see what you started there, Robert?
I know.
Well, listen.
Every time I look at the book, I start getting emotional, and because 3 of my grandkids are actually characters in this book, and so
that is so
anyhow.
beautiful. Listen, Robert, I love the concept. I love the idea. Listen, I know as you stated, you start to get emotional every time you look at the book. Well, listen, do us a favor, at least to start. Don't look at the book, because we got to discuss it, okay? So let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your book, Searching for Papa's Star.
Searching for Papa's Star, well, it's basically about Papa, which is me, and my three of my grandkids searching for the stars and searching for stardust, lucky stardust. And so basically one day I was out on the porch, so to speak, and I'm looking up at the stars, and my grandkids wanted to know what the heck I was doing. So I explained to them basically that I was looking at the stars, and I was, oh God, I'm going to get emotional. I was searching for the star where my wife was. Because I told the grandkids that basically everybody has a star when they pass away. Everybody gets a star. And I told them basically that up there is Grandma's star. Oh. And eventually one right beside her is going to be mine. So, and the storyline goes like that, along that way, and basically culminates with which I won't explain to you anyways. Won't let them know the ending. But I can get emotional over that.
Robert, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, what an amazing narrative around such a universal concept. As I stated when I first started, is, again, questioning and exploring mortality. Right. And I think that this is a conversation that a lot of people, especially parents, right. And I'm not there yet. Very, very, very close. My significant other, we've started having those discussions. OK, so it's definitely on the horizon. Yeah. But, I remember growing up, and it was a thing that really my parents, they had a difficult time discussing with me, right? And I could tell, of course I couldn't tell at the time, but being an adult now and looking back and remembering having those conversations with my mother and with my father, it was really something that, they just tried to kind of rush over. And, I think that is such a great connection that you're making. Mm-hmm. And what a beautiful way to explain that to your grandchildren.
Well, life and death, they go hand in hand, and sometimes parents try to hide that fact from the kids, and it's a difficult part of parenting.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Through this book, basically it outlines in simplistic terms. I mean, the book itself is very simplistic. It's not a long book. Basically, you've heard the term "to the moon and back."
Absolutely.
Well, I use the term "to the stars and back" because that's where I basically believe that every one that passes away goes and has a star up there somewhere. That's why you see all those stars.
Yeah, well, listen, there's a lot of them. Okay, there's a lot of them. Here on the line with Robert R. Blondin. We're discussing his book, Searching for Papa's Star, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But remember, go directly to his personal website, bobmeistersplace.com. There you'll find information on the book, and there'll be hyperlinks set up to take you to the Amazon page where you can purchase the book directly.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes, of course.
As I said, I was born in Callender, Ontario. I'm actually the youngest of 12.
Wow.
So
that's a big family.
So I'm now 70, so you can imagine all the stars that are up there for me right now.
Absolutely.
But anyways, yeah, I'm a little family of 12. Yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Fantastic. So now going off of that, I mean, I'm very curious in terms of inspiration, and not only, of course, listen, inspiration, as we know, can take many forms. So we know what inspired this book and really how that originated. Now, you talk about your career as a law enforcer. How and where did that inspiration come from, branching from law into now writing 4 books?
Well, that's a good question. Like I said, I came to Toronto as green as can be, and I got told they were hiring downtown, and lo and behold, I went down there and they hired me, and I went into the civilian branch, and I lasted for 32 and a half years. And I retired back in 99, I think, and so I've been retired for 20 years now. But during all those years in the 70s and the 80s, I wrote poetry and basically dabbled in this, dabbled in that, and so when I retired and after my wife passed away, I decided that I always had a feeling that I wanted to publish my poems. Some are nice and easy going. A lot of them are on the dark side. I don't know why. It's just the way I wrote back then, I guess, in the 70s and 80s. If anybody knows what the 70s and 80s were all about. Oh, God. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and so I used to write poetry with co-workers, actually.
Oh, wow.
And, they can't get me now for doing that, so I can say it. We wrote poetry on the job, you know what I mean?
Nice.
But it was an outlet. It was a way of everybody getting together and doing something positive, and it was just like teamwork and whatever. Then we actually got back to doing real work, but that's beside the point.
Fantastic.
So anyways, like I say, I always wanted to publish the book, and one day I finally decided that, okay, I'm going to publish my book, and just for posterity purposes. I wasn't looking to make any money. I just wanted to get it out there, so my kids, my grandkids, could always have something to look back on.
Thank you for that, because you set up a perfect segue into, now we're going to branch onto your other book. Okay, now guys, as I stated, he's written 4 in totality. Okay, so of course we've already discussed Searching for Papa's Star, but his other 3 titles, and really one specifically that we really want to focus on. The first one is Time, Only Time. The second one is Guilt Factors, Mind Games, and Thought Knots. And then lastly, we have Lost in the Darkness of Thought. Now, keep in mind, guys, listen, when you go and you search on Amazon to purchase all these fantastic titles, Lost in the Darkness of Thought, there's actually a newer version. So make sure that when you go out there, you're picking up the 2nd edition that was just released in 2019, not the one that was released earlier than that, because you do, of course, want to get the most current version possible. Now, Robert, as we go into Time Only Time, tell us a little bit about that book, please.
Well, this book basically is written. It was most likely the original book I ever wanted to write, which was encompassing my poetry. So basically, it is a poetry book. It's my poetic rumblings of all the poems I wrote during the 70s and 80s, and basically the book has the poetry, and then has a sort of a picture on the side of maybe related to the poem itself.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I just wanted to do a final book of just what I intended to do originally. And it took me 3 other books to get to this point.
Well, listen, you can't rush the process. So, Robert, if it's okay with you, I mean, listen, we'd love to hear some of your poetry, because the next 3 books that you've written, they're all revolving around your poetry, right? So I think it's safe to say that you're more of a poet than an author, right? So we'd love to hear some of your poetry. If you can share 1 or 2 of them for us, please.
Okay, this one's called Unseen Scars. Mm-hmm. Childish schemes, scattered dreams, everlasting feelings, unseen scars, still dormant in the dark canyons of my mind, slowly garnered through the ages of time. A stretching imagination, infectious in itself, now scattered and running amok, my spirit slightly numbed. Deep feelings emerging, servicing, dining, and dancing as if jumping from an old dusty book. Emotions on top of other emotions, sometimes cascading into downright chaos. Deep dark feelings, harvest over time, yet harnessed over time. Childish schemes, scattered dreams, everlasting feelings, unseen scars.
Thank you for sharing, Robert. And it's funny, because when you started to discuss before, when you were talking about your inspiration and really how your journey has taken place in terms of starting off just writing poetry with coworkers, and during the 70s, 80s, a lot of your poetry that you've written was all dark. And I look at that, and my interpretation of it really, scattered dreams, it's such a profound meaning, right? In statement.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it as necessarily dark. I look at it more so as almost realistic, and that may almost appear bleak to certain people, or to some people, in terms of their interpretation. But when you really stop and you analyze life itself, right, and how when we're younger, everything it's like you're looking at life through rose-colored glasses, right? And everything is so bright, and you're so optimistic. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you become pessimistic as you go. I think you just start to become realistic, right? And you start to see really life for what it is. And I think that there's a lot to be admired there. Robert, this has been absolutely remarkable. Thank you again for being a guest with us. And one more time before we take off, guys, listen, what more can be said? Again, here on the line with Robert R. Blondin, discussing his book, Searching for Papa's Star, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but again, at his personal website, bobmeistersplace.com. There, not only will you be able to find Searching for Papa's Star, but you'll also find his other titles, Time, Only Time, Guilt Factors, Mind Games, and Thought Knots, and lastly, Lost in the Darkness of Thought. Robert, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Oh, I thank you. I'm just glad I didn't get too emotional.